So with the advent of the PlayStation 5 Pro, the best place to play any third-party game on console is the PlayStation 5 Pro. I'm not disputing that. But I'm thinking a little bit outside the box here because I've got an Xbox Series X. I haven't played the Xbox Series X in a while. I'm kind of tired of the mixed messaging and all that jazz. But Star Wars Outlaws, don't ask, it was a gift. I have it on the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, and I noticed something incredible. The Xbox Series X in quality mode looks better than the PlayStation 5. It's just a fact. And I started to think about the Xbox Series X in general. If the Xbox Series X was a child, its parent would be like Charles Manson, and that's a shame because it's a great kid that has to suffer under the yoke of its parent, Microsoft, which is just absolutely awful at almost everything that it does. But this late in the generation, I feel like the Xbox Series X as a console, if you're choosing between an Xbox Series X and a PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X is starting to show that it is a more powerful system on paper than the base PlayStation 5. And with this one game, look, is this game going to push people to buy Xbox over PlayStation? Absolutely not. It's not even a game most people purchased. But I have noticed a huge difference between this game on my PlayStation 5, base PlayStation 5, not the Pro, and my Xbox Series X. And I wanted to put this video up so that you can see it too. Listen, I'm not Digital Foundry. I understand time of day and shadowing making things look a little bit better, but that's not what's going on here. You can literally see the difference in the color, in the texture, in the quality of just the characters. And I was kind of shocked by that. And I thought to myself, well, with the PlayStation 5 Pro, getting all these patches from third-party developers to take advantage of the extra horsepower in the PlayStation 5 Pro, would that help the Xbox Series X? Now, I know Star Wars Outlaws was patched on the PlayStation 5 Pro to take advantage of it. I'm not sure if it was patched before the release or after the release or when, but there's a noticeable difference here on the Xbox Series X. And it is something that I was starting to think about, and I wanted to go back and maybe, or not go back, games coming out, newer third-party games upon release, when they release with a PlayStation 5 Pro version. You don't have to wait for the update. Are those updates going to take advantage of the extra horsepower inherent with the Xbox Series X? Because to me, there's a night and day difference between these two games. Again, let me stress, it's not about time of day differences. It's pretty much a match here when you're looking at these images. The lighting is much more pronounced. Detail in the far off distance is much clearer on the Xbox Series X. The graphical effects seem much more impressive. This is one of those games where I had to stop and say to myself, you know, it's interesting. I don't usually play the same game on two different systems, and it isn't that big a deal. Let me stress, I'm not trying to say you should throw out your PlayStation 5 and every third-party game that takes advantage of the Pro is going to give you the advantage on the Xbox Series X, and maybe there isn't that big of an advantage then between the Series X and the Pro. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that this late in the generation, it does feel like the Xbox Series X, despite all of the blunders and the goofiness out of Microsoft, is starting to demonstrate that it is an extremely capable system within this generation. You know, with all the discussion around rising costs and AAA development and how it's just so expensive, maybe, I'm starting to think maybe Microsoft got some of this stuff right this generation when it came to just releasing the Xbox Series X, the Series S, and maybe going forward with a gazillion dollars that they have and all of these studios and their ability to leverage the software everywhere. I know that that is not a popular sentiment. I come from a generation where it's all about the console and the exclusive, and I am still that person. But it does feel like if you're not Nintendo, if you're PlayStation and your Xbox, Microsoft and Sony, you're gonna have to figure out a way to deal with the cost that your consumers expect. They want these huge AAA games, they want them to cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and you have to figure out a way to get it done. And it feels like maybe Microsoft has got it right. I mean, think about where Sony is right now when it comes to their first party and their AAA expectation. Naughty Dog during the PS2 generation did Jak and Daxter, Jak 2, Jak 3, and Jak X Combat Racing. This generation, they're going to do one PS5 game Interstellar. Not Last of Us remakes, not something else that's being remade or up-resed. A proper PS5 game within the generation. You're going to get one game from Naughty Dog at the end of the PlayStation 5's generation, and probably the PlayStation 6 version of Interstellar, like Last of Us 2 Remastered. Think about Sucker Punch. What have they done this generation besides Ghost of Tsushima, which was a PlayStation 4 game? And you're going to get their Ghost of Yotai game, a proper PS5 game, one game this generation at the end of the PlayStation 5 generation, and then the inevitable PlayStation 6 remaster. Insomniac is really the only studio that's worked the way most Sony first parties have done in the past. They've given you Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart right at launch. Great game. They've given you Spider-Man 2 PS5 only. And they've given you Wolverine, which is supposed to come out this generation. Maybe it comes out at the tail end again, or maybe it's a launch title for the PlayStation 6. Who knows? It's the cost of everything that has Sony in this position. And if you're buying a PlayStation 5 or a PlayStation 6 for first-party games that come out 5 years into the generation and you only get one, then it really is about third-party games or leveraging some other strength. And Microsoft seems to have that ball. They just can't carry it over the goal line, it seems, because Microsoft can't communicate the idea of Game Pass to anybody. It's a difficult concept to market to people. You're buying a box and then you're going to subscribe to something that gives you all these games. It's much harder than just saying, look at this exclusive, PlayStation 5 only, it looks fantastic. That still carries a lot of weight. I'm not trying to dissuade you from believing that is important, because I believe it is. I'm just trying to think a little bit outside the box here, because it does feel like in this battle of costs into the future, not Nintendo, because Nintendo is completely different than both of these companies, the battle of how much these games cost, you have to have something other than one game a generation that costs $70 that then has to go on to sell at least 10 or 20 million copies, and then you're obligated to do the remaster on the PlayStation 6. So I think that Microsoft may be in a really strong position here at the tail end of this generation going into the next one. Now, it's Microsoft. They can completely screw it up. I totally expect them to, but having played this game, having seen the difference, having thought about the PlayStation 5 Pro, having thought about third parties patching the PlayStation 5 games for the PlayStation 5 Pro, and then that inevitably maybe helping pull out more power from that Series X, and then Game Pass, and then games everywhere. It does feel like Microsoft is in a position to be able to combat the rising cost of everything within the market that they're in, that PlayStation is in, the high-end boutique console, the AAA, really expensive games. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.